The more that we can have these conversations about sex.
It is ritual.
Sex magic is when we're using sex or these acts of sexuality with intention to create something. Our thoughts create a frequency.
You can't deliver a transmission about the superconscious from my conscious mind. For 3 hours straight, without a stop, I channeled this entire book. Chapter 1, chapter 2, right? And it was such a clear transmission.
So today the topic is
Who's that sexy man?
Kind of a big topic.
yeah, and he also has the balls to match. Like I like that it's like well proportioned. There's a nice, set of hefty balls there.
So the one that we just saw in Egypt,
camera.
it was like this big off
See
the
it.
floor, and it was like, it's like, I don't know that if I don't think I want that in my house. It was huge.
I would like to have one. The first thing that happens when you walk through the door is that you see that and you hang your coat on it.
You could hang your coat on.
I like that. Or
You
like
hang your hat, your
purse,
coat.
It feels a little disrespectful for a shaft that big. It should be worshipped and not used as some utility closet.
That is true.
Fair enough.
That is
To
true.
not hang something on it.
Maybe
you
have
could
some,
hang like, beads and like sacred ornaments and, things that like celebrate it, but
Yeah.
the coat feels a little bit
I
like
think you should have some of your
It's
oil.
covering it up.
Some of your oil that you make, like holy oil right there.
just like
And
rub
as,
it.
as people come in, they can like put some oil on their hands and have like a little blessing. Like, this is what I want to manifest. And,
Shoes
that's
off
my thought.
and bless the Osiris rod.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, well, I absolutely think that, men should be in every household because, the more that we can have these conversations about sex.
It
And,
is ritual.
and I would like to introduce you to sex gods and goddesses, king and queen of
King and queen.
psychedelics.
A brand new title as of today. I like it.
Beautiful Maya Rose and beautiful Gerald. So happy to have you on the podcast today to talk about all the things sex, psychedelics, and obviously becoming membered in our lives. Yes. So, sex magic. Tell me everything you know.
Oh, well.
Drop into
You
the
have
portal.
no idea the door you're opening when you enter conversation with Maya Rose with that invitation. So
This is true. This is true. Well, I think sex magic could have many definitions, but what I like to consider sex magic is when we're using sex or these acts of sexuality with intention to create something. And that's what magic is. It's like you're creating something that wasn't there before. It's in this mystical, magical way. And so it's just adding intention into what we're creating or doing anyway. And if you think about it, like, sex is the biggest, at least for me, is like the biggest act of energy. Like it's the most energy. And why not direct that energy or that magic into something intentional? And don't get me wrong, it's not like I do this all the time. I'm not like, hold on, Gerald, we need to set an intention right now. I mean, there's those times where I'm like, just ravish me. But it can also be used as this sacred practice, this magic that can help manifest things. It can send this signal out into the universe. So that's my short definition of sex magic.
Well, it's absolutely magical, by the way, hopefully I'll make you blush. So we had the opportunity to actually hear you through the wall having this magical sex. So they hung out at our house and we let them stay in the bedroom below us. And it was really an incredible experience because we got to hear you doing some of this sex magic below us.
best-
I have to say that it was delicious foreplay for
The
us.
best way to bring in the new year.
Exactly. And I would say that you are moving some energy down there. Some of the stuff that I just think it's so beautiful that you're fully in your feminine, your masculine, and just the sounds and the elevation, the frequency and vibration that was coming through those walls. It was so delicious. Brandon and I were like, that's what we want.
Well, what's so amazing about adding sound when you're practicing sex magic is the power of frequency. You guys have been to Egypt. Gerald's going to go very soon, but Egypt's built on frequency. It's built on these symbols and these frequencies, and frequency has such a power. In fact, there was a time, and we've shared this story with you guys before, but one of the best stories we have around this is we were doing an event down in Tulum. We felt super called to do this event, 2/2/2022.
2/22.
Oh, 2/22/2022.
February 22nd, 2022.
As many twos as you can get in there. And we had booked this amazing place, like just south of Tulum. And we felt like we needed to gather people together. And we, just a few weeks before the event, we had like 3 people registered. We needed at least 30 to like break even on the place that we'd gotten. And we were just so sure we were supposed to do this. So Gerald and I enter into, and this was in psychedelics, one of our also favorite combinations along with sex. We were in a psychedelic journey, and we decided to make love with the intention of calling in the people that needed to be there, of finding this frequency.
And somewhere along that experience, we just started tuning in. And the beautiful thing about psychedelics is it just makes me more aware. It helps me see all my blind spots, or all the places that I'm not listening, or the places I'm out of tune. And so I started listening and feeling like the resistance and the stories. And then we started like really tuning into like what the frequency of the event is. Like, what would that be like? And for some reason, that idea, that thought prompted an idea. It's like, oh, if this event in our fully aligned state had a sound, what would it be? And so we're making love, and
Well, Gerald's laying down, and I'm like straddling on top of him. So I'm sitting up, he's laying down, and suddenly he starts making this sound.
as I'm like really focusing on like the feeling, the experience, the vision of this event that's coming through us, there's like a really clear picture that just came into my mind. And then the sound that began to emerge held that vision. It held that attunement, that frequency in some way that, I had never explored in that way, like putting a sound to what I wanted.
And what was so powerful is I could feel the vibrational frequency coming from Gerald through me. And then I started making a sound, and I tipped my head back and my throat was up, and it was like this sound pillar was coming out of me.
Wow.
And it was this frequency like a beacon that was calling people, inviting them into the frequency of the event.
It was like the moment that sound between the masculine and feminine like connected and united, it literally felt like this boom, this pillar of light that just shot up. But for us, it felt like, oh, that frequency has no resistance. It just is, right? Like all of the stories and all the fears and all like, I'm not ready, I'm not enough, or like, can we do that? All of that was cleared away. It's just like, oh, this is just what is. And in our mind, it's like this frequency just shot out and just was shooting around the globe to anyone that needed to land and to feel that.
And what was so powerful about it is any story we had on like, what should the marketing be? What should we say? How should we make this invitation? How can we make this sound like, sexy and alluring? How can we find the words to put to what we were creating? And we let go of all of that and just found the sound frequency. And I'm not kidding you, within 3 days, not only had we filled the event, and these are all people that we'd already told about the event, they called us.
Wow.
We had to get an extra Airbnb. And we ended up having this epically magical event.
An extraordinary portal, like one of my favorite events ever. But it was really interesting. It was such like a clear contrast between when we were trying to do things from resistance to when we actually merged our energies as masculine and feminine, united with a clear vision of more than like what we wanted. It felt like this is what was wanting to be created through us. It was like the surrender to that, and the frequency, that sound allowed it to somehow be transmitted to the people. But also, I think just at a core level, I love that we had this experience where we're at our house and at your house, and we're just making love, and we're like, oh, I hope we didn't like keep them up, or like, I hope that wasn't disruptive. But like both of us come from like very sexually repressed and restrictive experiences, right? And so for us, it's like been this really intentional journey of learning how to access more fulfillment. And it's so beautiful for me when Maya Rose is fully expressed in her sound and her pleasure, because that's what allows me, I don't know, like as a man, like we feel like heroes, when our woman is like screaming, we're like, fuck, I'm a badass, right? Like it's just like, yeah, like there's some sort of validation we get as a man to feel her in her pleasure, which I don't know, it's really fun.
It was beautiful music to our ears.
I love it.
Yeah.
What do you think the resistance was? Because it's literally you had this vision, you alchemize this, and then it comes through you, Maya Rose. So like, what was the resistance and how did you transmute that? Like, what's this vision that came to you with the sound? Was it the vision of the event?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, to dissect that a little more.
I mean, I think it's a couple of things. It's number one, like all the resistance that shows up when we're called to create something. You know, all the fears is like, I'm not ready, or I'm not enough, or who's going to do? And all this like egoic way of approaching our goals where we're trying to convince people and we're trying to sell people and we're trying to market to people and all this like agenda-based actions that we do to like kind of create the result we want.
Right.
Like there's inherent resistance in that because it's built on some part of us that feels like we're not ready or we're not enough. And what I feel like that moment for us at least was, and I can't overemphasize how useful psychedelics in this space is, you know, for us to get fully open to our heart, fully tuned in to like feel, but to actually get to that place past resistance where we're tuned into what is wanting to be created to it through us, but also in that tone, it's finding our own true tone of our own soul frequency. Because in that truth of who Gerald is, and that truth of who Maya Rose is, when we can tap into that unfiltered, unbridled, unapologetic expression of us being pulled through our throat chakra, and then all of a sudden carried in our soul frequency is the note that reaches all of the people we're meant to serve. And it's the note of creation that allows, you know, things to be formed in the universe that are, you know, authentic to our expression. But so often the expression of us is filtered through apology or through ego or through dysfunction, and like someone's true voice or true soul frequency is rarely heard because of fear or whatever distortion is there.
Yeah.
Well, and I think like lovemaking is a microcosm of the macrocosm. So in our lovemaking experience, I like to be like, I'm 95%, you know, in the sub role. I like to be in surrender. And I like when Gerald takes charge. And what I noticed was when I'm in my head about something, do I look good enough? What about my stretch marks? Is everything okay? Is there laundry? You know, like whatever that may be, it takes me out of the experience and I can't fully surrender and experience the magic, right? And it's the same thing with marketing an event, right? It's like, do I look good? Am I saying the right words? Wait, am I doing all the things I need to do? And it's the exact same experience. And so it's the moment when you can surrender into what's wanting to be created. And I think it's really important here to note that the question is what's wanting to be created through me, not what do I want to create. And eventually, when we're so in sync with the divine all, right, the superconscious, then it's the same. What we want is what the superconscious wants. But I think there's two important parts. Number one, knowing that we're so fully worthy. So for me, at least, I'll speak for me, knowing that I'm so fully worthy to be a vessel of the message. Or if you're thinking about the sexual experience, knowing that I'm so fully worthy to be in the moment of surrender and to receive all that pleasure. Like I get to be the vessel of pleasure or the vessel of the message. And then number two, surrendering and letting go any shred of ego, like shrinking down so small that I can actually ride that particle wave of unconditional love throughout time and space to reach the people who need to hear that message. And in essence, if I were to sum it up, it's making it about something greater than just me. When I'm thinking about me, when I'm making it about me, that's my resistance, that's my limitation. But when I know there's something greater that's wanting to be created and I'm willing to surrender into the moment and allow that to be created through me, then anything is possible. And oftentimes it's so much greater than I would have ever imagined. And so I think that you can look at things a couple of different ways. And this is where in sacred union or even in sacred pleasure, it's so beautiful because everything you experience, all the resistance is just a microcosm of the macrocosm. And when we can learn how to play with that and be aware with that, and like awareness is the first step to transformation. It's just being aware and then starting to ask, like, how can I be more in surrender? How can I, see myself as more of a worthy vessel? What's wanting to be created through me? And then start focusing that energy outward, knowing you're a worthy vessel. Then that's when the creation really starts to happen. So that's my thought.
When you guys were explaining this, I think it was before New Year's, it just clicked for me so much because we had done sex magic practices before where we, imagine and we're feeling the feels of the manifestation. But for me, sound is such a huge part of, I feel like, my soul. I mean, I was in music at a very young age, and everything has a sound. Sound will move me in ways that other things don't, right? And it's so adding that piece of like, oh, what does our container sound like? It's so funny because immediately when I start thinking about it, I just, I remember back to one of our speaker events that we had just not that long ago, and it, like, hearing us chanting together, like, that was the vibe and the sound, and like it gave me chills all over my body. And so when we're calling in more of that during sexual, sex magic, I think about that and it just turns me into this big inner child, right? It's so much fun. And I never even thought of it in that way of calling in the frequency and vibration from a quantum physics. It totally makes sense because, they postulate that everything is woven through the thread of frequency, vibration, and sound. And tuning into that will then create more of that matrix, obviously. And then you're doing it through the power of sexuality and creation. And it blew my mind. And I'm not probably articulating this in the best way. It's just, we've been practicing it in different ways and really tuning into what is this next level of sound for us, and who are we calling in, that divinity. It just, yeah.
Well, can I share something really, really yummy with you too?
Yeah.
This is something that has just newly come into my awareness of putting these two pieces together. But there's this practice of sigils, right? And sigils, basically the whole idea behind sigils, there's several different ways to do them, but it's coming up with some kind of symbol that represents you or you as a couple or your creation or what you're wanting to manifest, right? And there's so much. I mean, we could spend a whole podcast on sigils, so I won't go into that. But what I've just recently discovered, I was working with a client recently, and this is so powerful. You can actually add sounds to your sigils. So a really great practice that you can do when you're lovemaking is actually drawing the sigil on the woman's womb and the man's heart, because when the hearts of the men and the wombs of the women are healed, that's when the world unites. And putting those sigils on, but then creating a sound with every stroke of the sigil. So almost like it's a chant. So each piece of the sigil has a frequency, and it's a chant that you put together, and that is the chant along with the sigil that sends the signal out to the universe. So there's a vibrational tone or frequency, which oftentimes we find in lovemaking. But I'm really excited to play around with this idea of like chanting and also having the sigils, of putting those two together. I think that when you said chanting, it reminded me of that. I think that's that's the next place that I really want to go and play around with.
That's super fascinating because it's an archetype, symbols, frequency. It makes total sense to me.
Well, and it's also, the creator God Patah created it with the power of the spoken word. What if he was having sex
vibration.
while doing that, bringing it up into his heart, and Sekhmet was painting a sigil in his heart?
Spoken into existence.
I mean, that kind of just clicked for me because, we've been quoting that in our speaker alchemy, is that he first created in his heart. But what if they were having
you
sex?
feel it, you see it, and then you speak
into the
it.
heart.
So it makes...
Yeah.
That's total sense. That's cool. I love that.
We're gonna try that.
What's that one stat where it's like the monkeys, that the male monkey,
the whooping?
Yeah, the whooping. I don't know what monkey it is, but it was like 80 whatever % plus, that when the female monkey like screams or yells during sex, like the male always ejaculates and always comes. Like it's like they get pregnant faster. There's like studies on this. Remember we were doing it? And I was like, yell more.
Well, and honestly, I have to say there was a restriction there. Because I feel like in my past, being a sex worker, it was all performative.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't really coming from a place of really what I felt. And so then I shut all that shit down. And so I was like never really doing any of it. And it was more like towards the end. And so now I'm working on, bringing that back in and really giving those divine signals. And I mean, partly because of being above you and the initiation of your sex magic, bathing in your beautiful sexiness, that gave me permission to start playing in that space, because there's rigid parts of myself that was restricting that area. So thank you for that.
It's such a beautiful thing to like reclaim that part of you that was given up because you had been performative or you had felt like it was needed to be done as like a role you were playing. And you actually reclaim that authentic part of you. And I think that's a such an inspiring thing. And even for people that aren't sex workers, I think a lot of women probably relate to that,
Right.
where
Well,
they've
even
had to
just-
fake
yeah.
it, or they, they're trying to
So many
prove
fake
something.
orgasms.
I know. And it's, it's,
It's mean to men too.
Well, it's just sexual repression in general. You guys know this. I mean,
Well, and
our
also, I
society.
mean, there's some things like I have 4 biological children, so when they were younger, my ex-husband and I didn't even know how to make sounds. I didn't even know that was possible at the time. But also, there's all these different stories or rules that we have or ways that we tell ourselves. But one really fun story I want to share really quickly, because this to me was like a peak moment of like, wow, this is actually really powerful and authentic in its expression. Gerald and I, every fall, Gerald goes up into the mountains and he does a kind of like a death ceremony, like as the leaves are falling and there's these beautiful golden aspen trees by our condo in Solitude.
Just to be clear, I drop in with acid and just like head out into the middle of the woods when the aspens are like bright gold, because I love to feel like the full vibrancy of life at that time of year. And so I love just being in the primal wildness, and using LSD as a tool, as a gateway, as a sacred ceremony to like honor the richness of life at that season.
Yeah.
I love that.
So he usually does this solo. And this year he invited me to come with him. And so it was really beautiful because we actually got to our spot. There was a little bit of resistance going. I bet there was a moment you probably wondered if you should have invited me. And I was like, why are we going in the no trespassing? Why are we here? What are we going to do? What's a comfortable place?
Like when I'm
are
in
you
nature,
sure we should be here?
And especially when I'm in LSD, I am a feral creature. I'm a wild beast. Like I just want to be like running barefoot through the mountains and just like
He's like, fuck the signs. We're fine.
I will not be tamed.
So he's like, all these signs are like, no trespassing, don't be here. And he's like, fuck these
This
signs.
is
And I'm
my
like,
fucking mountain.
Gerald, I don't know if we should
I will
be
not
here.
be told what to do.
It was funny. It was funny. But when we finally landed on the spot where we ended up, it was this like beautiful place on top of the mountain with these golden aspens surrounding us. And we just decided to
Lay down a blanket.
Yeah, like
and we're just surrounding, and it's just like the perfect weather and warmth, and the aspens are just like blasting this golden energy all around. It's so magical.
it was very remote. So we were talking about like, what do we want to create? And then we went into this love making. It was so beautiful. There was one moment, and it was kind of on this ridge. So it's on the mountain, and then there's this canyon, and then there's another mountain over here. And there's this moment where I climaxed an orgasm, and I made this sound, and literally a male moose, called back from the other side of the mountain. And I was like, I've reached my feral, I'm in this authentic animalistic expression.
You're
I
in the
finally
club now.
arrived.
And then Moose is like, where you at? I'm coming. I want to be part of this. Whatever that pleasure blast is.
It was amazing. And just a funny other piece of the story, right afterwards, I stood up. Remember, I have no clothes on. And then I go to sit back down by Gerald. I sat right on a wasp, like right on my asshole. Got stung right in the root chakra. I'm
Oh,
like,
shit.
thank you, Isis. But luckily, because it was an enhanced state, it just felt super intense.
Just a really
So
intense
I was like,
sensation.
oh, I guess, pleasure's intense.
Right on your asshole?
Right
Right
there. Yeah. So
It would have been hard to aim that well.
So it was a peak
I kinda
moment,
relate
followed
to
by
this wasp,
another peak
I look at that, I want a bite of that too.
maybe it's just Isis being like, you've got to ground this moment in. I'm gonna add some intensity.
The sacred medicine.
Yeah. So, anyway, that was
It was
fun.
the
moment.
anchoring point.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
I love the
awesome.
fall when the aspens are turning colors. It's like the best time of year.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And I totally agree with acid and being feral.
Yes.
I love acid because first of all, you don't get cold. For me, I mean, in Burning Man, the entire time when I was on acid, I didn't have any coat on. I was, tits flying around, barely wearing anything but a G-string. Yeah, it was great. It just it gives you energy
It's such
to
a
go and
beautiful
adventure.
And it
experience.
makes wasp stings so they don't hurt. They
Exactly.
just feel intense. Which is,
Exactly.
And if you stack LSD with MDMA or heart medicine, Maya Rose is like an 8-hour orgasm. It's just like pure pleasure, it's joy and sensuality combined. And
That is so incredible.
it's really fun way.
That is so cool.
Yeah, we've never had sex on acid. It's not like something I want to sit down long enough to do. It's weird.
Really?
So
I am insanely horny on acid.
Really?
Like
I've done it.
I
I
can
mean, you
have
maybe
hours.
you not.
You are horny all the time, so acid doesn't matter. But so there's
How is
certain
this a problem?
medicines like mushrooms. I do not want to do it whatsoever. I'll try it. So maybe we'll do a lighter dose and then some MDMA. MDMA is my fuck drug.
MDMA.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I just love it. Like I just want to touch and suck. Like I can't stop having things in my mouth. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I like this effort.
I see that smile on Brandon's face. He's like, yeah, it's amazing. I like when you want to touch and suck and have things in your mouth. He's like, I'm all in for that.
All in.
I like all the mins and all the balls that connect with the mins. Yes. Yeah. So, well, that sounds like an incredible story. So when was that? That was last fall. What's the most amazing thing you've ever manifested in sex magic?
Well, I mean, I could tell many, many, many stories on this. Gosh, I have my go-to stories. There are some incredible things. So what ends up happening when we make love is if there's like some kind of intention or focus, there's just something on our mind. It's not like, we don't get super specific about it because I feel like sometimes when you get super specific, you can actually limit yourself.
Right.
But if we're open in general, so one example is during COVID, actually we were in conversation about, how do we show up in the world? And the whole world was shutting down and we were running our programs online and like, how do we really inspire people and help people? And during this time, we were making love, and there's this thing that happens where you actually can have a burst in your pituitary gland, DMT burst, right? So this is the same thing when you go to Joe Dispenza workshop that he works up to with the breath work. It's the same thing if you ever had that pineal burst, yeah. So I have this often in lovemaking, and we call it a cosmic orgasm. And usually I get shot out into outer space, and I come back saying things. Oftentimes it's numbers. Sometimes it's like ideas about people we need to connect with or whatever. But during COVID, we had this cosmic orgasm, and I came back repeating this certain number frequency, 5789, 5789, 5789. And I'm sure Gerald's like, are you okay? What does this mean? So I'm like, this is really significant. I need to figure out what this sequence of numbers means. And I'm a 1 in human design. If you know what that is, that's an investigator. So I love that part of me. I think you're a 1 too, right? So I very easily can kind of investigate and follow these certain threads. And I find out 5789 is actually a gene code. And the second I find that out, I'm thinking this has something to do with actually solving COVID. Like it's the solution for COVID. And I'm thinking, I'm not a geneticist. I don't know what to do. Who do I talk to? I talked to a couple of friends. It didn't really go anywhere. And honestly, I'm like, okay, that was weird. Why did that happen? Now, sometime later, we're at the Consciousness Conference in San Diego. I'm sitting with Gerald and another friend of ours, and Bruce Lipton's talking. If you're familiar with him, he's kind of known as the father of epigenetics, what happens, how, the power of your mind, all these things. And he's alluding to COVID. I don't think he can actually say the word, right? Yeah. And he's talking about the power of the mind and how our thoughts create a frequency. The frequency travels down into our cells. It's absorbed into the cell. And then we actually emit a frequency into our field, which attracts certain things or leaves us vulnerable to certain things. It's this law of attraction, this idea of what you think you manifest. And as he's describing it, he's like, in the gene code, the gene that absorbs that thought from your brain into the cell is 578, and he alludes to the very thing. And suddenly I think I even started I got screaming a little bit, oh my gosh, I get it now. This is why this came, is because that's part of the work that we do and we're doing at the time, is helping people to transform their thoughts, use the power of the mind to really help have healthy bodies, create and manifest the things they want in their life, be in peak states. And I understood too why information would come to me. I'm not a geneticist, but I am in a position where I can help people understand their thoughts. So that's one experience. I could tell so many others, but there's so many amazing miracles. And often what I've noticed is it has something so much bigger than to do with just me, if that makes sense.
Sure.
It's usually a message about collective or about somebody else. So, I mean, sure, there's amazing things like I want to manifest $100 million or, all these things, right? But kind of how it works is I have to be in surrender, and whatever the superconscious is wanting to create through me, then I'm, in surrender to that. And superconscious, if you want to create $100 million through me this next month, I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, that'd be incredible. Right here, here's the address.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you have this download that like we needed to get together before Egypt, was that through lovemaking, or was that dreams, or both?
So,
Because I feel like that's all related too.
Yeah, no, that was definitely dream state, but it's that same kind of, for me, it's so interesting. It's when my brain goes offline, my conscious brain goes offline. So whether that be in a lovemaking experience where I have this DMT burst, or whether I'm sleeping and it's really the subconscious brain taking over.
This is what we refer to as the superconscious, and some people don't understand like the role and what the superconscious is. Here's the way I like to describe it. Our conscious mind is what everyone uses to like understand and like figure out things, and when I relate it to anything, it's like related to a computer. It's just what you see on the screen. It's like the pictures, the images, whatever is like happening right in front of your face right now that you're present to. But that represents less than 0.1% of what's happening in your brain. The subconscious is the operating system, the belief system, the programs, the memories stored, everything that's stored on the hard drive. It's like the underlying thing that allows those things to show up on the picture. But the superconscious, on the other hand, it's like the Wi-Fi network.
Right.
It's what allows us to tap into the supernatural and these states that go way beyond what our conscious mind, it's not even stored in the system. And when someone reaches a superconscious state, whether through orgasm or through meditation or through dream states or these different modalities for clearing out the mind and tapping into like the mystical field, that's when these downloads, inspirations, this channeled state comes from, because it's not coming from within. It's not coming from a known state. It comes from this superconscious state where miracles happen,
right,
and unexplained phenomena happen. And this is where, like, when Maya Rose taps into that, like, so often she's like, oh my gosh, we need to connect with Deb and Brandon. We have to do the ceremony, or I need to, like...
You guys have been in my dream space more than once. So
but
you're very special.
It feels like that's the way that the universe really speaks to us. The subconscious is like all the underlying identity that we carry that generates how we experience the world, and a lot of what's stored in the subconscious just isn't true. It's all BS. It's just a belief system, and it's all this carried memory and stored programs and things we inherited from our parents or epigenetically that generate the view through which we see the world. And so oftentimes our highest states of evolution come from tapping into the superconscious, where we download a new program or identity or upgrade to our internal software that allows something totally different to emerge.
And how I know it's the superconscious is because it surprises me. Like, I'm not thinking about it. I haven't had any thoughts around it. I'm not present to or thinking about that certain, specific thing. And oftentimes in the superconscious state, it's like something will come through. It's like, oh, I've got to write that down. That's super brilliant. And it's like I'm being taught, through that. So
yeah. So we were talking about it, I think last time we saw each other, of how it comes through as a channel for you. You were saying it's just like this knowing, but it's not as much as a picture. It's like this knowing and information that comes through.
Yeah.
And for me, a lot of times I get it when I'm in water, to be honest with you. Like, some of my best connections to source or super consciousness comes through when I'm in the shower, or if I'm walking, or it just like boom, and I see a picture. And then I don't hear anything, but I feel like this knowing inside of like, yeah, that's divine. It's like, it's not connected to any sort of egoic desire. It's that divine will kind of feeling. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's detached from my own personal desires and wants. And that's how I know when it comes through for me. And so I know, like, for you, it's a little different too. And then I want to hear from you whenever it comes through for you, Gerald.
Yeah, I've done it through water. Like, I think when we were swimming at Barton Springs.
Yeah.
We both used to kind of get tapped into that. It was like super sacred little ceremony, little morning ritual we would do together. Shower. I mean, recently it's just been like putting it together, and I feel like I'm like training myself on how to connect with this superconscious. In Egypt, it was like massively overwhelming, and I was like trying to make sense of it all. And I was like, I think there's a surrender piece that I've got to like get to, or actually surrender to this stuff just coming in. It was pretty wild.
When it was coming in, though, was it only a feeling, or were you seeing colors? Like, what was going on?
It was like all of the above.
All of it, like a
Yeah.
psychedelic experience.
It was feeling, and then it was seeing like shape-shifting stuff. And then people were talking, and I was looking at them, and their mouths weren't moving. And then I was picking up like their voices, and so then there were voices in my head. I was like,
Ooh, like telepathy, yeah.
it was definitely telepathy.
That's cool.
And then every now and then somebody in the group, I would just pick up this like phrase. It was like that with you, right? When I was like at Burning Man.
Oh yeah, so we had this like sexy girl triangle.
So
you know,
Lisa and Cassandra, they were all like, the three ladies were all hanging out, little goddesses.
and we had our heads together in this like female tripod, and we're on some medicine.
And it totally surprised me because I was just like loving it, kind of dancing. And then all of a sudden I look over and I was like, oh, beautiful. The girls are making out. And I didn't think anything. I had zero thoughts in my mind. Turned around, like looked at the stage, came back. And then it was like, I remember Deb, like you guys, you came out of this kiss, all three of you. It was like all three of you, like you like rotated. It was kind of cool. And then she was just smiling. And she was like, what did you say? You said, I am so wet. I am so horny. And I'm so excited, or I'm so aroused, or something like that.
I also was thinking inside my head, like, I haven't done anything like that in like a long time.
And it
right?
seemed like you were a bit
I was
surprised. And I was looking at her, and her mouth was not moving. She was just smiling. And it literally was like into my head. And I was like, and it was her voice. That's
Nice.
what the trip was. It was her voice. And I know it. I was like, I look around. I'm like, how did she? I was like, don't say anything. I was like, did you just have this thought specifically? And I repeated it word for word. And she was like, uh-huh. She was like so out there.
I was so out there.
She was just gone. I
I've
was
been
like,
doing some
I was
fun
like,
stuff.
and then I was like, are you sure? And she's like, 100%. And I was like, that was wild.
Right.
And I mean, it was like exactly, it was just, so I had that happen in Egypt, but it was like so
Wow.
many different things. And it was just like, it was overwhelming because I just couldn't fucking process it all. It was fucking wild.
Wow.
It was really cool. It was in Dendera. It was at that night in Dendera.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could hear all the thoughts of all the people, the temple people.
And I had this feeling, what I'd never told my brother, I had this feeling like I was like, where is he? And I had this feeling he went somewhere and had an incredible experience, but I didn't know what he was doing because he kind of peeled off from the group, and then he came back and he had his own like Jehuti experience. Like this guy randomly came up to him and was like, so what room, like he goes, what would you like to see or something? I don't know. He asked him a question, and my brother's like, what's your favorite room in this place? And he's like, come here, I want to show you. And they like peeled off together, the two of them. And my brother had this incredible experience. And I had this, like, I didn't hear him, but I was like, he's having a cool experience. Like I had that feeling. It was pretty amazing.
And for those of you that don't know, Dendera is a beautiful temple in
Hathor.
Egypt, and it has to do with the goddess of sex play and dance and frequency and vibration. It is fabulous.
That was
We had
an
such a
incredible
experience.
night.
I can't wait for you to go.
Yeah, I'm really
It's
excited.
going to be fun.
So tell me, how do you get your downloads?
You know, it's interesting. I was just kind of reflecting on that, and I feel like when I'm most in like full alignment, it's just like when I can be present and my mind can be clear, and I can, for me, oftentimes it comes through a vocalization, right? And I notice this, like, you know, in my work as a trainer, facilitator, leading seminars, I notice when Gerald steps aside and I just become a channel, and I feel like the voice of God, right? But it's like that energy. I know something beyond me is speaking, and in those states, I'm like, shit. Is someone taking notes? Like, like write this down because
really
I know
good.
it's not mine, right? And it's like really powerful. And
Yeah, for sure.
this is why I believe like these intentional states of higher consciousness are important. And for me, psychedelics are undoubtedly, they can be a tool for accessing that. And I want to emphasize for anyone that's listening, it's just like doing psychedelics doesn't mean you're tapping into your highest self or deeper consciousness or your superconscious, right? Like there's so many people that you can drop in with Molly and go to a rave, and sometimes it can be like really dangerous because you just open yourself up to all of these like energies and frequencies that don't belong in your life, right? But if done in a sacred and intentional way, it can be really powerful tools. I had this one moment, I had channeled like these 7 different principles, all built around Metatron's cube that are kind of what I call the legendary code. Each one of these principles has a lot of depth, but it's for me like the formula for intentional living and manifestation and growth, right? So I had like been working with these principles for a lot of meditation, and I felt inspired. Like one of my friends kept pushing me, he said, Gerald, you should write a book, you should write a book, you should write a book. And and he's like this person that's helped over 110 people become New York Times bestsellers. So with him saying that, it hit me in a unique way. And then Maya Rose said, you should write a book. So so I was on this space, and I'm not a very patient person, I guess. It's not like I'm not like very disciplined. It's like I'm going to spend an hour a day, crafting this. And so I was like, okay, what's the best way for me to get this message out? Because I wanted to like communicate about the superconscious, but I knew it needed to come through a superconscious state. You can't deliver a transmission about the superconscious from my conscious mind. Right. And I felt that. I felt like that would be like, and so I was like, okay, how do I do this? And so I dropped in with, I don't know, about 3 grams of psilocybin, and I was all alone in my room. And then I started doing this breathwork experience and like channeled this, had this music, and I was like moving the energy and just like clearing my mind and just opening up the channels, each one intentionally, from my root chakra up to my crown chakra, just clearing the energy through the breath and the movement and the, this meditation and the music. And then after I like blasted the energy, I could feel the energy like shooting through my crown chakra. Then I turned on the music, and my soul, for whatever reason, it's just over dramatic. I just love like really epic theme music. Like you're in the middle of an action movie.
Yeah.
I love that in the background when I'm speaking, and imagine my hair like blowing in the wind, and like there's something about it. It's just like it's just like overly dramatic about
like the symphony music.
Yeah, I'm calling in the troops, and we're rallying ourselves for war. It's like
I will say just a little side note, because I know you're in the middle of your story, but Gerald, like when he has his music behind him, he's such an epic speaker. We were sharing the stage one time at this event, and we were taking turns going back and forth. And so, Gerald's like, play some epic music. So we had this like, now we are free, and he's speaking. Then it's like my turn to
this
speak.
Potent, powerful message, and then I pause and turn to her, and she's like,
and then I start, and I'm like, well, hold on. Can you guys just turn off the music? Like, I can't even think right now. Every time Gerald talks, turn on the epic music. Every time I talk, let's just turn it off. And so it became this big joke, but it was perfect because every time he talked, he would play the music.
I'd stand on from the stage, and my cape would be flowing in the wind, and I'd be like delivering this transmission, and then turn around, and everything gets still.
Then I would create from this moment of stillness. Anyway, so this really is Gerald's soul.
That's
so funny. So I turned on like my most epic theme music, and I pulled out a recorder, and for 3 hours straight, without a stop, I channeled this entire book, chapter 1, chapter 2, right? And it was such a clear transmission, and it was like going through these principles, and like it felt like it was being delivered from a higher part which wasn't me,